Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to the first book haul of 2025. This year, I am going to try to be more intentional in my book buying and not just go on book buying binges. And so this book haul is actually a combination of books that I purchased on using gift cards that I was given for Christmas, and I walked into Barnes & Noble on Friday looking for specific books. Sometimes they have books that, sometimes they put out books early, like a week earlier than their release date. They didn't for the two books I was looking for, but three books. I did have 3 books on a list. I went in with a list, and all the books that I brought, 3, were all on that list. So I did not buy anything extra. I was tempted, but I didn't. Anywho, let's get started. I don't remember the release date for this first book, but they did not have it when I went to look for it around its pub date. They did now. So that is What the Woods Took, a YA novel by Courtney Gould. They have this in the sci-fi fantasy section, and maybe it is. I don't know. I think it's got some spooky vibes, though. Devon Green wakes in the middle of the night to find 2 men in her bedroom. No stranger to a fight, she calls to her foster parents for help, but it soon becomes clear that this is a planned abduction, one everyone but Devon signed up for. She's shoved in a van and driven deep into the Idaho woods, where she's dropped off with a cohort of equally confused teens. Finally, 2 camp counselors inform them that they've all been enrolled in an experimental therapy program. If the campers can learn to change their self-destructive ways and survive a 50-day hike through the wilderness, they'll come out the other side as better versions of themselves, or so the counselors say. Devon is immediately determined to escape. She's also determined to ignore Sheridan, the cruel-mouthed, lavender-haired bully who mocks every group exercise. But there's something strange about these woods. Inhuman faces appearing between the trees, visions of people who shouldn't be there flashing in the leaves. And when the campers wake up to find both counselors missing, therapy becomes the least of their problems. Stranded and left to fend for themselves, the teens quickly realize they'll have to trust each other if they want to survive. But what lies in the woods may not be as dangerous as what the campers are hiding from each other. And if the monsters have their way, no one will leave the woods alive. So, these wilderness therapy camps are nothing new. They still go on today. And when I saw the... Try not to have I don't know what the hell's going on here. When I saw the description of What the Woods Took, it reminded me of a book that I read growing up, and that was The Grounding of Group 6 by Julian Thompson. I do recommend this. I may do a reread right around the time I read What the Woods Took. In this, 5 students hike in the woods, and then they realize that they're not meant to return from that hike in the woods. I can't remember how this ends. I do remember enjoying the book, and again, I recommend it, and I'm probably going to do a reread. So, the next book is kind of similar in that I picked it up because of another book. The other book was Carmilla, and the other day I was looking at a list on Goodreads of retold stories. An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson is a retelling of Carmilla. Sorry, I almost swallowed my own spit. So Carmilla is about a female vampire, and it preceded Dracula by I can't remember how many years. I finished that, second book of the year, finished it on day 2, really enjoyed it. In An Education in Malice, deep in the forgotten hills of Massachusetts stands St. Perpetua's Women's College. Isolated and ancient, it is not a place for timid girls. Here, secrets are currency, Ambition is lifeblood, and strange ceremonies welcome students into the fold. On her first day of class, Laura Sheridan is thrust into an intense academic rivalry with the beautiful and enigmatic Carmilla. Together, they are drawn into the confidence of their demanding poetry professor, Dr. LaFontaine, who holds her own dark obsession with Carmilla. But as their rivalry blossoms into something far more delicious, Laura must confront her own strange hungers. Tangled in a sinister game of politics, bloodthirsty professors, and magic, Laura and Carmilla must decide how much they are willing to sacrifice in their ruthless pursuit of knowledge. Yes, Laura, same name, Laura and Carmilla. I can't wait to read this. Again, I might bump this up. Well, not again. I may bump this up and read this in January as well. My January TBR is filling up. I am not sure how I found out about the next book, but this is perfect for my Women in War, my new way I'm approaching women in war, and that is for Rouenna by Sigrid Nunez. I think I actually was looking at another book of hers, and then I saw this, and I was like, oh, I have to have it. After my first book was published, the narrator of this haunting novel tells us, I received some letters. Among them is one from a woman named Rouenna Zasinski requesting a meeting. Though fascinated by the stories Rouenna tells about her life as a combat nurse in Vietnam, the narrator flatly declines Rouenna's request that they collaborate on a memoir. Later, however, in the aftermath of Rouenna's shocking death, she is compelled to write about her friend and her friend's war. For Rouenna is an unforgettable novel about truth, memory, and unexpected heroism. I don't have it with me because it's actually on the sofa, but on my nonfiction side this month, I am reading The Unwomanly Face of War about women in the Soviet Union fighting in World War II. And I've already in that, I'm only 30, 40 pages in, I've already found similarities to women coming home from Vietnam, like were written about in The Women and Home Before Morning, two other books about, one fiction, one nonfiction, about women coming back from Vietnam. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I don't know when I'll get to it. It may not be a January read. I've got already like 3 other books on top of what I've already said I'm going to read, or already read. Next up, I don't remember how this one came to my notice. I keep meaning to write them down, but I don't. So that is My Government Means to Kill Me, a novel by Rasheed Newson. Earl Trey Singleton III arrives in New York City at the tender age of 17 with only a few dollars in his pocket. Born into a wealthy black Indianapolis family, he is ready to leave his overbearing parents and their expectations behind. From the Chelsea Hotel to a Harlem bathhouse to act-up protests in the East Village, Trey takes on an exhilarating, raucous ride through the 1980s New York City and meets up with a cast of characters who show him the beauty of liberation amid the struggle. This is set around the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. That is kind of when I came of age, so I really remember hearing about that and seeing it on the news. So that sparked my interest in this book. I just don't remember. It was probably BookTube. Next up is that a book that does not become available in the United States, doesn't get released in the United States until March 4th. That is The Undoing of Violet Claybourne. I ordered this from Blackwell's, which is a UK bookshop. This is by Emily Critchley. I ordered this because the US version has a different cover and I like this one better. I got this recommendation from Mother Horror. I do follow, she's going through her witchy, female-centered phase and I am here for it. So I've already got one other book because of Mother Horror on my shelf to TBR in January. Now 1938. Julian Larking is used to blending in and going unnoticed until she is befriended by her new boarding school roommate, the vibrant and spirited Violet Claybourne. As the Christmas holidays approach, Jilly can't believe her luck when Violet invites her to spend them at her home, the crumbling Thornley Hall. At Thornley, Jilly is dazzled by the family's faded grandeur, and above all, by Violet's beguiling older sisters, who seem to accept her as one of their own. But following a terrible accident in the house's grounds, Jilly begins to realize the Claybourne sisters aren't quite what she thought they were. And if she's to survive in their world, she may have to become just like them. Set against the winter of 1938, which is right on the cusp of World War II. Ooh, 2 timelines, 1999, 60 years and I haven't returned. Not once. Not until today. Okay, this and an Education in Malice are going in my January TBR, which is right over there, and already has 2 other books. The next 3 books are part of a Booker project that I haven't fully committed to yet, but I keep buying the books for it. And that is wanting to read through the Booker Prize winners from its inaugural book, which was Something to Answer For by P.H. Newby. Back there, I don't know if my finger's pointing in the right place, but it's back there on my shelf. I do have that as a January read. It will probably be towards the end of the month. We'll see. So these 3 start with Nadine Gordimer's The Conservationist. I don't remember when these books won the prize. I do have note cards I'm putting inside them as I put my collection together, so I'll know. Whenever I read this, I will tell you what year it won. Maring is rich. He has all the privileges and possessions that South Africa has to offer. But his possessions refuse to remain objects. His wife, son, and mistress leave him. His foremen and workers become increasingly indifferent to his stewardship. Even the land rises up as drought, then flood, destroy his farm. Nadine Gordimer's fascinating portrait of a man both reckless and calculating, a conservationist left only with the possibility of self-preservation, is also a subtle and detailed study of the forces and relationships that seethe in South Africa today. When is today? This might tell us when the copyright was 1972. So not today, but then today. Next up is Bernice Rubens, the elected member. Norman is the clever one of a close-knit Jewish family in the East End of London. Infant prodigy, brilliant barrister, the apple of his parents' eyes. Until, at 41, he becomes a drug addict, confined to his bedroom at the mercy of his hallucinations and paranoia. For Norman, his committal to a mental hospital represents the ultimate act of betrayal. For Rabbi Zweck, Norman's father, his son's deterioration is a bitter reminder of his own guilt and failure. Only Bella, the unmarried sister, still in her childhood white ankle socks, can reach across the abyss of pain to bring father and son the elusive peace which they both desperately crave. This is like, I think, number 2 or number 3. 1970, I believe. I think this was the second book. It was copied in 1969, but complicated. I'll get to it when I get to the Booker Prize project. Finally, I've got The Siege of Krishnapur by J.G. Farrell. Bear with me, this is very small writing and I forgot to bring my glasses. He's got 2 books at least on the two Booker Prize winning books in my project. India, 1857, the year of the Great Mutiny, when Muslim soldiers turned and bloody rebellion on their British overlords. This time of convulsion is the subject of J.G. Farrell's The Siege of Krishnapur, which widely considered one of the finest British novels of the last 50 years. Farrell's story is set in an isolated Victorian outpost on the subcontinent. Rumors of strife filter in from afar, and yet the members of the colonial community remain confident of their military and, above all, moral superiority. But when they find themselves under actual siege, the true character of their dominion, at once brutal, blundering, and wistful, is soon revealed. This is a companion to Troubles, which was about the Easter 1916 rebellion in Ireland, and the Singapore Grip, which takes place just before World War II as the sun begins to set on the British Empire. Together, these three novels offer an unequaled picture of the follies of empire. Now I need to probably order the Singapore Grip, which is not a Booker Prize winner, but I do have a copy of Troubles, and I've always been interested in the Easter 1916 rebellion. So look forward to getting to that, although I'm trying to, again, figure out how I'm going to do that project. And that concludes my book haul. It is, like I said, it was a mixture. Only 3 of those I bought at the bookstore. The rest of them I bought through gift cards that were given to me for Christmas. So, and most of them, 3 of them were books for the Booker Project that I'm going to do. And one goes for Women in War, and one was just a whim purchase. So, anyway, that is it for me. I hope you had a great New Year, a great holiday season. If you've read any of these books in here, I'd love to hear what you think about them. I'd love to hear from you, period, down in the comment section below. Anywho, thank you, as always, for sticking with me on this journey, and happy reading.